A photo on the right shows pages from the first website in the world that featured the Gurdjieff movements, which was produced by me in 1997. Many years later, I saw them again as a part of the archive produced by Dushka Howarth, a daughter of Gurdjieff. For a historical perspective, I should mention that the practice of the movements appeared to have been almost banned or scaled down significantly within what claimed to be authentic Gurdjieff groups when we picked them up from the early 1990s at the Osho commune. What we did must have disturbed them. But, without such provocation and our recollecting of the fragments, would much of the practice have survived the age of secretism, considering, for example, what has been reported as the mysterious loss of movements videos and other precious materials from the vaults in New York and Paris after the making of such great efforts to guard their secrets even from their own group members? From January to February of 2003, I visited Vladivostok, Russia, by the invitation of Third Millennium Foundation, to which I was referred to by Raghu, a man from Chechnya whom I met in the 2001 5-week program at the Osho commune. A number of children of various ages joined the practice of the movements at the school auditorium during the long winter vacation.
19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27.
The group had some experience of the movements before they invited me. Some young ones among them had been trained by the Foundation in the ability to see objects without the use of physical eyes. Why only very young ones? According to what they say, the training becomes difficult when they become interested in sex. What they show seem to demonstrate the truth of the Gurdjieff's assertion that energy basically of one certain kind, which he called magnetism, is involved in phenomena that may seem to be of different kinds: telepathy, clairvoyance, hypnotism, and healing. Apart from curiosity in such phenomena, it can be of further interest to us because it is the same energy that connects different centers in man, produce a sense of unity in a group, and may accommodate contact with the higher. That must be why Gurdjieff combined the practice of the movements with experiments in supernatural phenomena. In a short story titled Carnation, Catherine Mansfield writes her insights into such phenomena probably from her own experience in the childhood. Jean de Salzman died after 5 months from Osho in 1990. From around 2003, the trend around Gurdjieff and the movements began to change as major parts of old group structures seemed to have fallen apart. As the communal movements around Osho similarly have mostly fallen apart, some new initiatives began, like the Movements Foundation by Wim Dulman and Gurdjieff Internet Guide by Reijo Oskanen, which in the beginning looked promising. In the spring of 2003, my article with video on my experience of working with children in Russia appeared on the Movements Foundation newsletter. According to Reijo Oskanen, Dushka Howarth commented on it as he talked with her on telephone, and suggested that he might tell me to make a contact with her. She returned a message that started with a statement about her strong prejudice against Osho and about a hope in still being able to meet me on the ground of the work because of my acquaintance with the Beelzebub's tales and so on. Then she repeated what by then had become for me a familiar statement about the danger of the movements for unprepared ones, with a request to refrain from spreading it to strangers, a word that I later came to interpret in relation to the traumatic history of rivalry and competition that she went through with her mother as a daughter of Gurdjieff, which she only recently had begun to acknowledge publicly. An argument with her that started by this developed to a point that we agreed that it had to be settled by meeting face to face. On a certain day in summer, I was waiting for a call from her in which she proposed to talk about my visit to her in New York. The call did not come. On the next day, I was informed from our mutual friend that she was hospitalized for heart attack. I think that it was soon after her hospitalization that a massive blackout happened in New York. A few days later, I was asked if I could donate money for a fundraising campaigns organized for her by the Gurdjieff Foundation of New York, although, they said, it is unusual for them to ask such financial help to outsiders, with a request to refrain from directly communicating with her. Well, who started I sent the maximum amount I could send by PayPal. What is the moral of this story? It is indeed dangerous, as she says, even to discuss about the movements. Possibly more dangerous for her than for anyone else. Dangerous because, according to what Gurdjieff is reported to have said about his ballet, The Struggle of the Magicians, those who participate in it are bound to see themselves, the best and worst in them. Since 1997, I had been leading movements practice in small group situations in Japan. The practice intensified in the early 2000s as elsewhere. Communal activities around Osho collapsed rapidly or treaded the path of commercialism. In 2001, I published a fairly large book on Gurdjieff and his movements with a wide scope extended to cover Gurdjieff's dynamic views of the universe and man, involution and evolution, the actions of three forces in man, and so on. Descriptions on these subjects were based on my acquaintance with the Beelzebub's Tales and other writings of Gurdjieff, but made real through the experience of the movements, particularly in that communal situation provoked around Osho that retained its dynamism for a little more than 10 years after his death. Through this experience, like some others who were with me, I was exposed to and developed through impacts from different approaches, attitudes, perspectives and ideas, often in sharp conflict with one another, that collided in the communal situation around ourselves, mysteriously producing a uniquely provocative atmosphere, from which a few of us have learned to benefit while it lasted, and in my own case, to retain it in the practice of the movements in a form shareable to others. People today who lack the experience of being in the living energy field that was once formed around him would find it difficult to make out what they might do with a huge collection of his discourses, in which he seems to make contradictory and false statements from time to time. Prejudice could be a word too weak to describe one's repulsion against it. I think that such careless way of using language is technically quite wrong, utterly condemnable. But I think that practically it served a purpose, and moreover, I think he paid direly for it, too dearly indeed.
For most people, the truth could be understood only in terms of a lie. Is that the truth?
Absolutely true. Who can know it better than me? Gurdjieff is right. He had a tremendously clear insight into human mind. And if he speaks the truth, you will not be able to bear the shock of it.
Once there was a very rich magician who had a great many sheep. But at the same time, this magician was very mean. He did not want to hire shepherds, nor did he want to erect a fence about the pasture where his sheep were grazing. The sheep consequently often wandered into the forest, fell into ravines, and so on. And above all, they ran away, for they knew that the magician wanted their flesh and skins, and this they did not like. At last the magician found a remedy. He hypnotized his sheep and suggested to them, first of all, that they were immortal, and that no harm was being done to them when they were skinned, that on the contrary, it would be very good for them and even pleasant. Secondly, he suggested that the magician was a good master who loved his flock so much that he was ready to do anything in the world for them. And in the third place, he suggested to them that if anything at all were going to happen to them, it was not going to happen just then, at any rate not that day, and therefore they had no need to think about it. Further, the magician suggested to his sheep that they were not sheep at all. To some of them he suggested that they were lions, to others that they were eagles, to others that they were men, and to others that they were magicians. And after this all, his cares and worries about the sheep came to an end. They never ran away again, but quietly awaited the time when the magician would require their flesh and their skins.
One of the words Gurdjieff later applied to such pacification of the mind is self-calming, which not only is a major attraction of organized religions attacked by Osho, but also an element of Western therapies and Eastern meditative approaches that attracted people to activities at the Osho commune. So, Osho rightly called it a risky business.